Colorado and Baylor are both in a weird situation heading into 2026, and I think there's a lot of pressure on both Deion Sanders and Dave Aranda.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to a Locked On Buffs, Locked On Baylor crossover. It's your boy, Kevin Borba. Joining me is Cam Stuart, host of Locked On Baylor. We're going to be talking about the college football playoff. Apparently, it's expanding to every single team in the country will get at least a shot. All 138 will get a run at it. We'll talk about the 2014 proposal. We'll talk about five-star quarterbacks who are kind of tabbed with needing to save their programs because that could be either of us. But first, I wanted to talk about this loser of the offseason narrative and the pressure that's mounting around Deion Sanders and Dave Aranda. You talked about this the other day, Cam, on your show, and it kind of made me just sit and wonder because I would say both programs had a relatively strong offseason and talent acquisition. They made some moves coaching-wise where it's like, hey, we got to change something up. And yet ESPN was like, no, 9-11. You guys are two of the worst teams in the Big 12. Start your bags, get packing for Cabo, already. And so why do you think people are doubting Colorado and Baylor and just sort of writing us off already?
Yeah, what I thought was weird about it is just, both teams had pretty similar off seasons, right? It down to the numbers of transfers out and transfers in. The quality of transfers were about the same when you look at 247 at least in their ratings per guy. Both teams brought in a new coordinator. In the case of Dave Aranda, it's like the 30th one he's brought in 6 years. So that I guess is not as notable anymore. But I think both got really rave reviews for bringing in new coordinators. So it's like, oh, we should be packing for Cabo. All right. I was just like, I'm not saying that Baylor should be number one on this list or should be hey, watch out for them to win the Big 12. But it's I actually thought Baylor had a fairly good offseason considering how it started and all the guys that they lost. And I think you'd probably say the same about Colorado and the top end talent that you guys brought in, beefing up an offensive line, which really needed some help. I definitely know what that's like. But yeah, it's like, all right, I guess we'll have to sneak up on these Big 12 opponents. But I think the one thing, and we'll obviously talk about it big time, the one thing that ESPN probably looks at is neither of these head coaches are really instilling a ton of fear into a lot of opponents, right? And their game plans are not making other coaches shiver.
Yeah. No, it's tough because I look at Colorado's offseason and I go, honestly, I like what they did, right? They bring in Brendan Marion, who is one of the more prolific offensive minds in college football, had to get a new defense coordinator, but he has experience. He had a top 25 defense at one point, Virginia Tech, and they bring in some really interesting transfers. I'm like, this should be like a 6-7 win team. And then everyone's gassing up the individual transfers. And the ESPN's like, yeah, no, this team is just not good. And I was like, I don't understand. Where do we go wrong? And so I think, like you said, and I feel like both teams fall under this, I guess, realm of thought process is neither head coach is getting the benefit of the doubt anymore. And I think Dave Aranda's benefit of the doubt leash may have expired a little bit sooner than Deion Sanders, but I think both coaches at one point, obviously Dave Aranda led you guys to Big 12 contention, and it was very exciting. It's okay, this guy, defensive minded, he's a little odd, but he gets things done. And then Deion Sanders was okay, didn't have the best first year, but 2024 was magical. 9 wins. The overtime win over Baylor was huge, and they were in a way had a chance for a Big 12 championship and college football playoff long shot. And then all of a sudden they fall off, and it's okay, we don't trust them anymore. And I think both teams have lost this trust. And so now I think certain outlets are just and it is certain outlets for sure, because other outlets are much more high on both programs, but I think they just don't trust these teams anymore. And it's hard to blame them, but it's you have to at least look at what they've done and give them some credit.
Yeah, I think both head coaches are looked at as having a fluke season. Now, knowing the 21 Baylor team, and I'm sure knowing the 24 Colorado team, it's tough that, you don't want to say they were lucky per se, but when you look at the rest of the resume, it's well, yeah, I guess fluke is the word, right? It was just kind of out of nowhere. Dave Aranda's had one other winning season, and it had to come off the back of a 6-game winning streak after starting 2-4, So it's not like he has covered himself in glory, and it's just he's kind of on the back nine the last couple of seasons, right? So I think that's where the reputation is probably earned a little bit. But I will say I think this goes against the way that these outlets look at Baylor and Colorado in the preseason, but I think would kind of give these teams, I don't want to say an edge, but at least some confidence in the regular season. Is we have come to learn this every year the last couple seasons. Nobody knows how to pick the Big 12. Tech is now kind of cementing itself as being probably a perennial top of the conference kind of pick. BYU has been excellent the last 2 years, but for the most part, like nobody knows how to pick this conference. And you look at, kind of the middle of that last year, Kansas State, they looked like a real contender in the conference. They fell pretty flat on their face, barely made the bowl contention. Houston, you were thinking, is it going to take another year for Willie Fritz? No, it doesn't. 10-win season. Arizona, 10-win season, kind of out of nowhere, right? Defending Big 12 champs, Arizona State, kind of fall flat with some injuries. So this conference, dude, it's cliche at this point, but like seriously, nobody knows how to pick it. And that should give, again, not a inflated air of confidence, but at least some confidence to two teams who really weren't all that good last year. And in the case of Baylor, was really cold to end the season.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk 6-game losing streak to end the year? Oh, were you talking about Baylor or Colorado? Yeah, no, that's how both teams ended the year. I think it was rough for sure, but no, the Big 12 is tough, right? And I think that's why they got rid of the preseason poll, because it was like, hey, so we actually look really stupid when we vote a team as last place and then they win our conference, because then it's like, oh, the worst team in the conference just won it, and obviously that makes no sense. But that's just like how it was perceived when Arizona State won. And yeah, the Big 12, when I looked at ESPN's rankings, I can say this. If you ask me and Cam and everyone on Locked On in the Big 12 realm to rank the Big 12 teams, I think we'd all have very different rankings. But I imagine teams probably 6 through 12 could all be interchangeable, and they would be interchangeable, right? Like, I think I could see certain teams like a Kansas State being higher, and some people be like, no, I don't think they're going to be good this year. And I think like a TCU, some people are going to be high on their Harvard quarterback. I'm not. So it's like this conference has a lot of parity. There's a lot of things that could go wrong for a lot of teams. There's a lot of things that could go right for a lot of teams. And so, Cam, before we move on to the young quarterbacks that they're going to be relying on, I mean, they play week 4 at Baylor in Waco. And to me, Colorado needs this game because you're looking at just the way I envision people viewing their schedule. Colorado's win total is like 4.5. So I'm looking at games. I'm like, okay, you got to spot the winnable ones. And unfortunately, Baylor and Colorado are both right now those teams on people's schedule where it's like, well, that we should be able to win that one, right? Hopefully. Yeah. And Colorado has 3 road games in the first 4 weeks. And I would say that's probably one they would like to have. And what do you think? Who needs it more? Like, is there such thing?
I mean, like, to go off your point, man, both teams really need it. Like, we're both homecoming teams right now. Let's be honest. So, the way it went last year. And I think, it being the conference opener, that kind of sets the standard, right? Like, you got a couple Power 4 opponents to start off the year. Baylor starts the season with an SEC opponent. There's probably a loss in there for both teams before you hit game number 4 in the Big 12 opener. So this really like kind of is the litmus test. Like, it's a benchmark for, okay, if we can't win this game, where are the wins coming from? And on the flip side, like, oh man, maybe this team's better than I thought. Like 1-0 in conference play, So, oh man, I would.
Can I give you a hot Baylor take though?
Yeah.
There's a real. I think there's a real shot that Dave Aranda is like either not the coach at this point or is like fired after this game.
I was thinking about that, like as a reason why Baylor needs it more, but like, I just don't know when the guy is dead. I just don't know, man. Like I would love to just be like, yeah, Borba, you're right. Like, you nailed it. Like this, and that could well be the case, but they could start 0-3 and like lose to Prairie View or whatever. And I'd be like, maybe they let him go, or they'll probably say something about how nice a guy he is. So I will kind of I will lean towards Baylor in terms of needing this more, because of that argument. Like, I've talked myself right out of it. Because, Deion and the 10 million, like, I don't know that they fire him in the middle of a season, but Dave Aranda could. And again, if you lose this game, Colorado might go on to win 8 games. You know what I mean? For all we know after that. But if you lose that game and it's your second or third loss of the year and it doesn't look good on your home field, that could really shorten up the leash for Dave Aranda, like really shorten it up.
Yeah, and for Colorado, I say they need it, and I'm shocking. The Colorado guy goes with Colorado, the Baylor guy goes with Baylor, but Colorado, like, it's just so tough in that first month. I really am. Yeah. Even their first 5 games, they're at Georgia Tech. They get Weber State, which is kind of like hey, let's figure everything out right now because we're back into it at Northwestern with Chip Kelly next week, at Baylor, and then they get Texas Tech, who knows what their quarterback situation is.
Utah.
But Will Hammond will be healthy. Yeah. Then you get Utah. So it's like the worst case scenario for Colorado is they're sitting at 1-5, and it's like, okay, we got to win out. And that's a tough situation to be in. I think I've seen a lot more teams. Yeah. I think a lot of teams would rather start off hot and then sort of fizzle down the stretch than just completely faceplant right away. I think that's a tough thing to get away from. So, I mean, both teams need it. It's not going to be easy for either team. But Cam, I mean, that's college football, baby. That's the Big 12. We have a quick discussion to have about the quarterbacks because they have to save this team. Both quarterbacks, former 5 stars, have a lot of pressure on them, but do they actually have what it takes to be the guy? This episode of Locked On Buffs and Locked On Baylor is brought to you by our sponsors over at Rocket Money. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? You're not the only one. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills, it gets overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. Cam, I at one point had 3 Netflix accounts. You only need 1, especially since you can't even share it with other people. It doesn't even matter. So the good thing about Rocket Money is it helped me realize that. And it also helps me set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of my upcoming bills because life is expensive. So Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Also, if you haven't already, join our everydayer clubs. Mine's at lockedonbuffs.supercast.com. Cam also has one. Drop your link right there, Cam. Locked On Baylor, I'm assuming.
LockedOnBaylor.supercast.com. Yeah,
you get these episodes ad-free. You get access to our Discord. If you want to tell Cam he's an idiot or if he's amazing, go ahead. If you want to do the same for me, go ahead. I let you guys know when someone exciting is coming on the show so you can ask them questions. It's fun. It's cool. So sign up. Join the Everydayer Club if you never miss an episode. Okay, Cam, let's talk quarterbacks. Both programs are in a scenario where it's like, is everyone confident in our program? Absolutely not. ESPN hates us. But do you have a 5-star quarterback who can kind of change the dynamic of everything? Absolutely. And so how much pressure do you think is on these young quarterbacks, Julian Lewis and DJ Lagway, to sort of fix all of the problems? It's like, hey, we're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. We need you to do it.
That's probably the best way to put it. That's probably the best way to put it when you've seen the sheer amount of turnover the last couple of years. And that's not a pun for DJ Lagway's struggles last year. But all the sheer amount of turnover in these 2 programs the last 2 seasons. Yeah, you bring like this is the kind of move that is obviously a good one, right? It's an easy one to sell to your fans, especially in Baylor's case. He's a legacy at Baylor, played high school football in Texas. Like, that's an easy sell, DJ Lagway. But it's also one of those moves for both coaches where it's like, look, I've got the guy. It might not happen right away. So, hey, like, let's not just hurry to that buyout here. I've got the guy in place. Problem is, Billy Napier basically did that at Florida, and it did not help him. He was gone after a year and a quarter of DJ Lagway. So it is 2 of those moves where you are putting someone on the poster for your fans to see and come to the games, and someone to point to your boss and say, look, just give this some time. Like, I mean, this is the guy. This is the guy that can get us there. Quarterback's never been more important than right now.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think for Colorado, Julian Lewis got thrown into the fire late in the year last year and protected the football, 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, almost threw for 300 yards, but they lost. But it was like, hey, valuable experience. He's supposed to be a high school senior last year. He left high school early. And now it's like, okay, you're the face of the program. Like, do what you will, learn the go-go offense, which is one of the more complicated offenses in the country. And Brendan Marion was on my show and he told me as much. He's like, yeah, my offense isn't easy to learn. And I was like, okay, fun. Like, that's a fun fact.
Great.
I was like, I think once it gets going, it can get going. But obviously you could say that about just about everything in life. And the thing that excites me about Julian Lewis and DJ Lagway for that matter, is there was a reason they were ranked as 5-star quarterbacks, right? DJ Lagway was drawing comparisons to Cam Newton. He was like the next Cam Newton. He's massive. He's got a big arm. He's physical. Does he have the occasional hamstring issue? Yeah, he does quite frequently. And does Julian Lewis, was he working out with NFL players in like 8th grade? Absolutely. Does he throw a great deep ball? Absolutely. But they need to put it together. And that's the scary part, because with a quarterback like this, and Julian Lewis is a little bit younger, so I think it's a little scary on Colorado's part. You don't want to shoot his confidence right away. Like, you want him to figure it out. And I don't think I'll blame the scheduling gods instead of their athletic director, but whoever made the schedule was like not thinking of whoever was going to be at quarterback. And so Julian Lewis, you're going to be battle tested right away. And Coach Prime keeps saying he's coming around the mountain. And I don't exactly know what that means. Like, I don't know if he's like stuck in traffic somewhere, or if it's just like, hey, he's not ready. But like, I think Julian Lewis can be really good. And I think the same about DJ Lagway. It's just a matter of, do they have the right pieces around him? And do these coaches give him enough leash to figure it out?
Yeah, and I think that's where you look back at the portal additions, right? Like, I think Baylor had a fine portal class. Like, I thought it was good, solid, like nothing to write home about outside of DJ Lagway, but I think there's some good pieces in there. And you look at some of the high-end talent that Colorado brought in, like, it was to help a young quarterback, be it at tackle, be it at receiver. I know you lost a couple receivers too. But like, those are moves where you would see in the NFL when you draft a quarterback in the top 10 and say, this is how we surround this guy. And Baylor had so many other issues, right? They needed to work on obviously the offensive line and replace all their pass catchers, but the defensive line, the whole defense, the defensive coaching staff, like, they needed to add a lot on the other side of the ball. And so that's where, I don't want to hold that against TJ Lagway per se, but when you look at Julian Lewis, like you said, a guy who impressed at the end of the year, that's where you add a lot around him. And so it might be a tough start, with what you're talking about with Coach Marion and that new offense, but that's where you feel good about this kid probably the second half of the season. And with DJ Lagway, as much as I like him, and I think he's right for the first time in a while, you have problems on tape. You have the injuries, which I think were a bigger thing in 2025 than a lot of people gave it credit for. And you have the interceptions, 14 picks is 14 picks. I know he's hurt, but that's putting the ball in harm's way a lot, and that's a problem that's on tape. Julian Lewis, doesn't have that problems on tape yet. It could come around because he's a young quarterback, right? I don't doubt it, but that's where I think Colorado fans could be at least pretty confident of like, hey, we don't see these glaring issues in the back half of the season in conference play, and we've got this great offensive mind coming in. I think that should be a benefit to Colorado fans. For me, looking at TJ Lagway, I think he's healthy, like I said, for the first time in a while. And I think Jake Spavital is still a great offensive coordinator. So I'm not like lying awake at night thinking, how bad is DJ Lagway going to be? But I think both of these quarterbacks obviously have a ton on their shoulders, but have the insulation of two good offensive coordinators and huge upsides.
Yeah, no, and I think it's funny because they're just in different stages of their career, right? This is the life of a 5-star. So DJ Lagway is kind of like, if it doesn't work out, it's him, right? But for Julian Lewis, it's like they just didn't have the pieces around him. Like at Florida, it was DJ Lagway's fault. Last year, Julian Lewis just, which it's true, the Colorado offense line was terrible. They had no run game, and the offensive coordinator was useless, and that's why he's no longer employed. And so it wasn't his fault. And so now it's like, okay, now we're giving you some responsibility. And I think it's interesting, the life cycle of the 5-star, because no one in life gets more chances than a 5-star quarterback. And we're seeing that right now with the handful of guys.
Martell is still playing somewhere.
Dude, Tim Martell
is getting a chance.
Yeah. He popped in my Instagram feed the other day. I think he's running some sort of scheme that is shaped like those things in
Singing
Egypt.
instructor.
Yeah, look like one of those
Oh,
Egyptian shaped
yeah,
objects. I don't want to say the word, but
the
but
triangles,
it is triangle 3D kind of thing.
yeah.
But yeah, I think the 5 stars get a lot of chances, and I think these guys are both in prime positions to succeed. And so before we go to the playoff, Cam, the discussion, not the actual playoff.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Are both these teams
hey,
headed to the playoff? I'll hang up and listen.
yeah, I mean, could be. You never know. The Big 12 is unpredictable. What do you consider a success for DJ Lagway? Like, how many wins does he lead Baylor to where it's like, you know what? Awesome. Like, that was sick. Like, is it 8? Is it 7? Or is it like this dude, if he doesn't get us to 10 wins, like he's a bust? Like, what is the mindset there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I had this past week on the show, and I went like 3 different ways. In terms of wins, I think 7 wins is a good season for DJ Lagway this year.
Yeah.
Because as much as I've talked about, I like some of the pieces they brought in, like this is still a mess. Like this is still a hot mess right now. And some things can break their way in the Big 12, like we talk about, it can get open. But like I'm not ready to sell this team as a nailed on bowl team yet. So with all the production you have to replace offensively and the weapons around DJ Lagway, if he and Spav can work something out to get to 7 wins, I think that's a success. I do. And then hopefully you hang on to him. Is that what you guys are looking at? Bowl game success?
Yeah, I think bowl game would be successful. I mean, Colorado hasn't been to a lot of bowl games in general, honestly, over the past decade. And so making it to a bowl game would be awesome. Winning a bowl game, I don't think they've won one, I want to say since like 2005, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a minute since they've won a bowl game. So just hoisting that, like, I don't know, that Taco Bell insurance bowl or whatever, like trophy up would be nice. But like, I think for Julian Lewis, 6 wins, because you have to look at the win total. And I think Colorado fans are going to be a little bit irrational. Be like, if it's not 6 wins, like, what are you talking? Like, listen, win total is 4.5 right now. So you exceed that by 2
We'd
wins.
love to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to exceed the win total. And so 6 wins means you're bowling. 7 wins, I think, is great. And for Julian Lewis, assuming, because this is also the caveat you have to talk about with young quarterbacks, is like, assuming he's back the next year, he could build off of it, right? So
that's the thing. Like, that's where 6 wins, in theory, I know, like 26 college football, right? But in theory, with a young quarterback and taking that step to a bowl game, like that should be something to build off of and build around, right?
Yeah, and hopefully it's in Boulder and not elsewhere. And so I think 6 to 7 wins is a fair range, and anything above that, like if Julian Lewis or DJ Lagway leads either of these teams to 8 to 9 wins, I think we're looking back and going, why did we ever doubt Deion? Why did we ever doubt Dave? And are these guys like future first-round picks? Like and Julian Lewis is still young in his career to where there's not enough doubt. But like DJ Lagway, I think people are chalking him up as like, okay, this guy's just not what we thought he was.
Yep, that is already happening. This is like this is very much a hey, prove it, kid, kind of transfer move. Yeah,
and that's exactly what I think he wants to do, and I think that's what Julian Lewis wants to do. So very big upcoming seasons for these young quarterbacks. Hopefully it works out for both of them. Cam, I mean, the playoff, dude. It's like everyone wants to go. Everyone does. And like I was on board with the expansion the first time. I was like, you know what? The BCS championship, it's getting a little redundant. Yeah. Nick Saban's just cooking us all. I was like, I would like to see some new blood. That was the biggest complaint about college football was just, hey, it's Alabama, Clemson every year. It's Alabama, this team every year. So it's like, okay, we'll go to 4 teams. It's like, okay, well, you guys get left out, right? You and TCU that one year because the Big 12 was like, hey, so we don't do a Big 12 championship. It's not cool. We ain't doing that.
Shout out Bulls, me.
Yeah, dude. Great move. So all of a sudden, like 4 is, it's like, okay, if we're expanding, why is 4 is not enough? Like, it's like we have great teams getting left out. Like Florida State, granted, they lost their quarterback. I don't want them to come for me, but like they, in theory, had a case. It just didn't work. And so you expand to 12, and it's like, great, more opportunities. But now they're trying to double the field. So we're going 24 teams, which is a lot of automatic bids. And I think this is where the discrepancy for like which conferences are the most powerful comes into play, because it's like, oh, the SEC should automatically get 12 bids, right? It's like, no, they should not. And the Big Ten's like, so we should get 20 bids, right? Or no, like we don't want Rutgers in as the 23rd seed. Like, what do we mean? So what do you make of this? Yeah. What do you make of this playoff expansion idea? I personally think, and we talked about this off air, for fringe teams like Colorado and Baylor have been recently. Like Colorado would have made it in 24. You guys would have made it in 21. And you would have made it back the first time you guys missed it. You would have made it with 12. But how do you feel about it? It's like a double-edged sword because like you get in the mix, more teams get in the mix, but I think that dilutes the product in a big way.
And I'm right there with you. Like I was initially when I saw that Brett Yormark was like really behind it, like for like half of a second, I was like, really? And before I even like thought about it, I was like, oh yeah, well that makes sense because I don't think it's good for the totality of college football, but through the eyes of Brett Yormark, it is good for the Big 12, right? Yeah. Like, and that's why I don't agree, but I get where he's coming from. Like, if you had even a 16-team playoff this past year, 25, the Big 12 could have had 3 teams. You could have had BYU and Utah in there. And if you expand it to 24, if you just go based off the final rankings last year in the AP, you could have had 4 teams with TCU being the 25th in the final poll. So I get it from that standpoint, but to what you were saying, like that's where we need to draw a line in the sand because we're already seeing so much of what we like about college football, like totally diluted in that, teams are essentially giving up with a couple of weeks left in the season. They're giving up on bowl games. That sucks from a fan standpoint. But now if you go to 24, we're legitimately talking about the last couple of weeks of the season not meaning anything for all the teams that the general public wants to watch on television, right? Like I know we'll fight for our own teams and everything, but if you're so into making money and what that looks like, you're sacrificing a couple of weeks of your prime time TV. You can't probably play the week after Thanksgiving. You have to take away that Iron Bowl and Michigan, Ohio State. You got to put it earlier in the season. But if those 2 teams are good, whichever ones we're talking about, for even BYU, Utah, they're not playing for anything. They're like, ooh, we're already in the top 24 here. We're already in the top 20. We're already in the top 16, whatever it is. We're just playing for a seed. We're already in this thing. I think that sucks. And I think what is unique about college football as opposed to all these other sports, specifically pro sports that we love that have great playoffs and everything, is like 2 losses can sink your season. Yeah. Like that's the margin of error we're talking about in major college football, or at least we were. Now with 24 teams, Kevin, we're putting 4-loss teams in there.
Oh, like, dude. I mean,
that does that not sound crazy? Like a 4-loss team?
I'm telling you right now, we're gonna get a 5-loss SEC team in there.
We absolutely are. Yes,
they're like they were frisky 8-5.
12, yeah. Like
they were frisky 8-5. Like that's crazy. See. It's crazy. And honestly, sorry to cut you off, Cam, but like,
no, go ahead.
The problem with the playoff already is it's like we wanted more teams involved, but now it's like this. It's become this thing where it's like, well, we want a chance too, and it's like, well, we wanted a chance, and it's like, guys, you're playing for something. It's meant to be the elite of the elite, and the more people that get into it, it just dilutes the product. And plus, what happens when you lose? I mean, regular season games already mean less in the eyes of many. I mean, people are gonna be like, oh well, we lost 4 straight, but hey. Like it doesn't matter. We could still make it. Like there's no consequences to this, and it's sad. And then also the other thing too is when does it stop, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm the 25th team. I'm Air Force or I'm Army, and because we don't love the troops, like I don't get it, or like whatever. Like TCU, it's like, hey, why not us over Virginia, who lost their conference championship game to an unranked team? Why do they get to be in? And it's like I don't want to be making arguments for 4-loss or 3-loss teams. Like the playoff is about finding the best of the best. And I think the more teams that are added, the more it turns into March Madness. March Madness is not the best team winning the championship. It's the team that can string together. Was it 4 games, 5 games?
6. Yeah.
6, whatever. It's a team that could string 6 games together and just win those games. It's not the best team by any means, right? It's a team who has a fair bracket or a lucky bracket, and then they're just able to survive and advance. And that's not what the sport is meant to be. It's supposed to be a champion, the best of the best.
And we also already have problems with the CFP in that, like, these people bitch about how many blowouts there are every year. It's like, Why is that going to change? Why is that going to change when team 8 plays team 22? You know what I mean? Like you're still going to have blowouts here. And now the last 2 years with the automatic buys and the 12-team playoff, we are seeing those teams that have to sit and wait, for the exception of Indiana, but basically every other team around them that has had to sit and wait has gotten knocked off. Ole Miss was the last team standing in the SEC last year. Like, how about we figure out this part of it? How about we figure out the schedule of it before we double the field here? It is just such a cash grab. And we're not dumb, right? We know that's what the sport is at the end of the day anyway. But can we at least figure out how this was supposed to work first? How this is supposed to truly get the best teams in the best games before we double the field? Like,
I heard expansion. I was like, oh, they're going to 16. I'm like, that's fair. Like, I was like, 16 is a reasonable, like, we're doubling. We don't have to double it or triple it every time. Like, that's insane to me. Here's what the bracket would look like, by the way. So Ohio State would, if this was like a hypothetical 2014 bracket, by the way, Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Texas Tech 8, Oregon 4, Ole Miss 5, Georgia 3, Texas A&M 6. So you get first round matchups of Virginia, USC, Texas against Duke, which is your classic 9 versus 24 seed.
That is the Bill Stewart Bowl, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the two schools my dad went to for grad school.
Really?
Duke, Texas, the Bill Stewart Bowl. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well,
the big for him, not for anyone else.
I don't think a lot of people are looking forward to a 9-24 matchup. And then, as we've all wanted to see Alabama play Navy for a trip to the second round of the playoff, Tulane play Notre Dame, Michigan and Utah, Houston and BYU, which is just the Big 12 beating up on each other, North Texas versus Vanderbilt, because, I mean, with that many teams, you have to have more group of 5 teams in it, and then Pitt and Miami. And it's just like, people already pissed about blowouts, group of 5 teams, and SEC bias. And it's like, well, get ready to learn an SEC bias to a maximum because all of their teams are ranked all the time.
That's the thing. Yeah.
The G5 teams already struggle, and you're going to tell me you want more of them? And then it's just like, it's too many. It's too many.
Like, you're in California. I know it's not Southern California, but like, did you feel the buzz around the state for like, man, we got to get this USC team in the playoff? Like, what? At what point last year did USC or Pitt look like they could compete for a national championship? Like, it's all the same excuses that the big dogs use for group of 5 teams, right? Like, they don't deserve a spot at the table. They can't hang. It's like, yeah, I just saw Notre Dame put up like 50 on Pitt on their home field, and now we are creating a world where that Pitt team is getting a seat at the table. Like, it's already, the sport is already about 6 or 8 teams in any given year. Why are we tripling that to 24? Like, that's like,
I think
I just
my favorite stat, which was proven wrong for the first time this past year with Indiana, is the blue chip ratio. And it's like, you have to have 50% of your roster be 4 or 5-star guys that you recruited to win a championship. And every team that's won a championship since, I think it was 2011-ish, had that threshold, right? No team had won a championship, and Indiana became the first to do so. And granted, they're an anomaly. They were like old AF, and they had a number 1 overall pick at quarterback. And so they had a lot of anomaly things. But it's like, you're telling me on any given year, and there's typically 12 to 14 teams in the blue chip ratio that meet that requirement. You're telling me we're going to double that amount? There's already enough teams that can't win it. And some of the teams are like Auburn, right? They met the requirement this past year. They obviously weren't good. And like, there's other teams out there. LSU, excuse me. So it's like, yeah, let's get more of these teams in here. And I'll leave you on this. I was walking to Erewhon the other day in Southern California, and I just felt this buzz of like, Lincoln Riley just needs the playoff to expand, because when he's getting his Haley Bieber smoothie and his sea moss grass on top of that smoothie, like, not enough people are talking about this USC team at 10-4. And I couldn't agree more. And I was like, you know what? Let's go talk about this over some matcha. We'll go listen to Justin Bieber in the park, and we'll get them in the playoff, because that's what this playoff solution does, right? No,
there is some burner account out there, by the way, that has already calculated how many playoff appearances Lincoln Riley would have if we had been in the 2014 playoff the whole time he was at SC.
Yeah, and I think it's despicable, and I hope it doesn't happen. I think college football is actively sabotaging a sport that many people love for money, and it's devastating. So that's our rant on it. I'm Kevin Borba, host of Locked On Buffs. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. He's Cam Stuart, host of Locked On Baylor, also free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to join the Everydayer Clubs. Make sure to say what's up when you do, and we'll see all of y'all guys tomorrow.